I learned that a dream is actually appreciating the journey on a day-to-day basis. And it is the working and creating towards the goal that you have that is actually the dream, not the planting the flag there. Because when you plant the flag at the top, you look up and you're like, well, I did that. But wait a second, there's another mountain over there. And then you change what your obstacle or what your goal or vision is for happiness or success. And people just constantly go chasing and chasing and chasing without ever having an appreciation for the day-to-day journey. And the same is true with happiness. And certainly for me, and one of the things that I do to actually create this in myself every single day is, as part of my self-cultivation morning routine, I have a series of statements that I declare and speak out loud every single day. And one of them is, I am the happiest person on earth, shining my light on everyone.
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Rob Cressy. He's going to share how he lives his ultimate life, and you can too. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life, to wake up energized, excited about the day, to have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want, to be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and create harmony to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. Today's quote comes from Charlie Munger. Any year that you don't destroy one of your best loved ideas is probably a wasted year. What does that really mean? The smartest people are constantly revising their beliefs, their understandings. They're reconsidering the problems, even the ones they think they've solved. They're going back and challenging those beliefs. Are you? Are you stuck in your beliefs, or are they fluid? Life changes, technology changes, and so should we. Constantly taking that step forward. Before we continue, though, let's review last week's action step, which was to ask yourself, what's my money story? To write it out, to speak it out. It's our first question always, right? What's your money story? If you haven't had this conversation with yourself, you really need to. It's powerful. Check the programming, check the beliefs, examine your scripts. And we're right back at our quote. Have you changed your best love ideas around money? You know, I think a perfect example of this is learning to walk, because we all did it, but we forget how hard it was. It took months, maybe even a year or more, before we stopped falling. How many of you gave up? My guess, none. How many of you encouraged your kids to give up after they fell 20 times? My guess, none. Why? Because you knew it was possible. Most of what you want is possible. So why would you give up? Sure, you're going to fall a lot, but that's just part of the process. You laugh a little, you clap, and you get back up. That's what life is. So take the next step in whatever you desire and make sure you hold on for a little bit of support and encouragement. I keep saying life is simple. Doing simple is hard. We explore that and so much more on how you can create happiness on your journey. I hope you find a few nuggets today to implement. and maybe a reminder of some of the great techniques you let fall by the wayside and reincorporate them back into your day. You can hear how Rob figured it out on his journey and the way he views his life that allows him to live all out. And you can too by picking your path. Rob Cressy helps creators and entrepreneurs do great things, spanning the worlds of personal growth and self-mastery to marketing and brand building. His unique approach helps you become a better leader, fulfill personal and business success, and enjoy life. Rob's purpose in life is to be a positive force for good that leads others to what is possible. Let's meet Rob. Welcome to Rich Your Soul, Rob Cressy. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be jamming with you.
I'm excited to learn from you as well. We always like to start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
So growing up, I learned about money at an early age, and I can actually think about a specific moment in which I first learned the value of money. As a kid, I had one of those red lock boxes where I used to put my allowance in my money from mowing the lawn and shoveling driveways and doing mulch and things like that. And I grew up in a family where I was working from, 12, 13, 14, doing a variety of other things. So I knew the things that I wanted to buy in my life, whether it is a pair of Michael Jordans or a Nintendo, I had to earn it myself. And because of that, I would like to think that I've been very financially literate, albeit at an early age, on understanding the value of money as well as what money can do to create or buy the things that I would like.
So how did that get instilled with you?
There was no other option because I had to earn it. So it was more of my parents didn't give me any handouts for the things that I wanted. So my dad owned a car wash. So there was plenty of opportunities for me to make money at a car wash, mowing the lawn and raking the mulch in the summer, or sitting out there selling tokens for people who wanted to be in the car wash. So it was almost ingrained in my DNA. My dad growing up was a farmer. So I'm guessing that's actually where all of the hard work came in. So he had to earn everything growing up. So it probably passed on down to me that way.
And that makes a lot of sense. That's the way he was raised financially. And so he was intentional with that in the sense of he wasn't handing you things. He was like, you have to work for them.
Yeah, and it's the greatest thing ever because that's what you would want out of someone. I wouldn't want to be given anything because you want to learn and appreciate and understand value, because otherwise you don't value things. And I like to think of my entire journey. I'm so thankful for every single day and every single moment because I know where I was and where I am now. So what it has taken me to get to this point, I appreciate the journey because of all that goes into it.
Was it an easy journey?
No, by no means. It was not easy. And actually, it was also challenging by design. So was it easy? No. But there also got to the point where as my growth journey developed even more, I seeked out discomfort and challenges in the name of growth because nothing great ever came from your comfort zone. So for me, I know one example of this is a few years ago, I did Andy Frisella's 75 Hard and Live Hard mental toughness programs. And why in the world did I do it? Because Andy talked about, hey, 75 days is a small price to pay to become the best version of yourself. I was like, boom, sign me up for that. And I've got a variety of things that I do because I love growing, because for me, happiness elevates when you grow and you become more confident. So and any entrepreneur knows it's not going to be a linear journey. It's going to look more like a roller coaster. And I think about it at the very beginning of my journey. And Rocky, I see all those amazing books you have behind you there. And one of the books that changed my life was The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And it's around Stoic philosophy and what to do with challenges and adversity. And I knew the number one thing that would stop me from achieving the freedom and the life that I wanted was quitting and giving up. And I knew that the odds, 70, 80%, whatever it is of entrepreneurs, they fail. So for me, I was like, listen, this is what I'm signing up for. And I know by design, there's going to be challenges everywhere, So let me specialize in that.
Why do you think 70 or 80% of them give up?
Because it's easy, it's comfortable, because to not give up means you stare adversity and challenge and monsters and fear in the face and you say, you know what? Not today. I'm going to keep going at least today. And you rinse and repeat every single day. And a lot of this is also the story that you tell yourself. And what also fortified myself in this. So I was like, all right, I'm going to specialize in adversity and overcoming challenges and seeing those as growth opportunities. So the number one thing that I built early on in my journey was belief in myself, belief in my ability to do anything I set my mind to, belief in my dreams, because no one is going to believe in me more than I will myself. And because of that, I took quitting off the table because I am all in on myself and on my life.
So how do you deal with the obstacles, right? It's easy to say I'm all in until you get smacked in, right? What is the quote from The Fighter? You know, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah. So how you deal with them is one moment at a time. And I think this is something that's very applicable to a lot of people with growth mindsets, is that we have these big goals and things that we want to create in our life, but you can't let the totality of everything or how massive or big it feels weigh you down. So the way that you overcome challenges and obstacles is you say, all right, what is one thing that I can do? What is the first step that I can take? And then what's the next step? And if you think about it from a mindset perspective, you're just focusing on one action. And I know one of the things they say in Obstacle is the Way, you don't focus on the monsters that may or may not lie ahead. You focus on the one thing that you can do in front of you that can help you move forward and start building that momentum. And for me, momentum is so big, and so is consistency, because by taking one action, now you're at a 1, not a 0, or not at a -1 or a -2. Boom, we're building that positive momentum. And now the narrative in your head is no longer, oh my God, I can't do this. It's, all right, I'm on the path for making this better.
Consistency is something that I see people struggle with, right? They say, I want to go to the gym. I want to do this. I'm going to do X, but they don't show up day after day. How is it that you're able to consistently show up day after day?
I make it easy and I'm all in. So this is actually great because last week I just got done teaching a client of mine on this. So he actually said to me, Rob, I want to improve my consistency. So what can we do? So I was like, all right, we created the 21-day grounding to the earth challenge. And here's what it is. Once a day for 21 straight days, my client and I went outside and we touched the grass with our hands or our feet, the ground. It could be sand, dirt, water, grass, whatever it is. Why in the world did I do this? I was like, what is literally the simplest thing that he can do for 21 straight days? So step number 1 is just touch the ground. And you do it for 1 day and 2 days and 3 days, because we're working on consistency, and consistency just means you have an awareness of something. And with this, what is so important is your commitment. So number 1, to create consistency, you want commitment. So for me, the commitment is easy because I'm all in on my life and what I'm creating. And the reason for that is because I am not where I used to be, living a life where I did not have the freedom to do the things that I liked. So number 2 on this is, all right, well, if all you have to do is touch the ground, what else can we turn this into? It's self-creation. So 99% of the world, when they touch the ground or the grass, it just is what it is. But imagine the ability for you to take that and say to yourself, I'm amazing, I love myself, or I am consistent, whatever it is. It's almost like turning the grass into a trigger. Boom, a nice simple thing. So, all right, we do that. And then number 3, we're actually connecting to the earth. So sometimes it's nice to get away from the digital world and just look up and be like, there's a bird, there's a leaf, there's a bug, whatever it is. You get in tune with all of that. Well, we did that every day for 21 straight days. And all of a sudden at the end of it, he was like, Rob, you made this so simple. And I was like, yeah, because consistency is simple. All you have to do is one thing once a day. So if you want to go to the gym, don't focus on saying I'm going 5 out of 7 days. Say I'm going today. All right, what's one thing you can do to encourage yourself to go to the gym? Lay out your shoes the night ahead of time. So therefore, all you got to do is put the shoes on and go. So if we design simple systems and structures and then anchor ourselves in why in the world is it that we want to do this? Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And again, life is pretty simple. It's just I find doing simple is hard for a lot of people.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So why is simple hard for most people? I'll ask you that.
You know, for the life of me, I don't know why most people can't just do simple things. I mean, it is not hard to create success if you just show up and you do the little things every day. And yet there is a vast majority of people who just won't do it. And I don't know, is it something else that prevents them? Is it just laziness? Is it just they don't have enough desire?
Yes, to all of that. So why is simple hard for most people? Because they make it hard on themselves. So for me, number one would be when I think about what was one of the game changers of all game changers for me, it's when I learned self-awareness. When I went all in and it's all on me now, where I wake up and I'm making $0. No one's telling me when to wake up, go to the gym, when to work, what to eat, what to do, anything. And I was like, whoa, it's all on me. What percentage of the world do you believe is self-aware? And Rocky, before we started talking, you talked about how 98% of the people in the world are not your customers because only 2% of them are actually going to take action. Well, the same is true for why things are simple or hard for most people, because they're just not self-aware of it, because it's a lot easier to sit on the couch and do nothing than it is to design growth or actually just think about it, because it's way more fun and easy to scroll Instagram than it is to take 2 seconds and say, hey, what is one thing I can do to get better today?
Do people struggle with self-awareness? I was just at my mastermind meetup, and one of the things that they were talking about, and I just kind of find it odd, was that most people aren't comfortable sitting in the silence and thinking and again, essentially being self-aware.
The answer is no, they don't struggle with it because they're not aware of it. So for me, I would see this as binary. It's a 1 or a 0. Because if you're not self-aware, you're not sitting there being like, oh my God, I feel so much internal resistance about self-awareness. I'm seeing so many things about myself that I don't want to take action on. No, it doesn't work that way. You're either about this life or you're not about this life. So you say, are you about the growth path of getting better every single day? And you're aware of all of the things in your life, or you're not. And when you're not, it's just one of my favorite quotes, live by design, not by default. To me, the majority of the world lives by default, aka a lack of self-awareness. On the flip side, when you live a life by design, boom, you're self-aware because you can design every single aspect of your life.
And we get to pick what we want. And some people don't bother to pick. So they get what life gives them. And that's what default is, right? Because you didn't choose. You didn't say, I want XYZ. You just get what's dealt with you. Sometimes you're lucky. You win the lottery of life, and most times you're not.
Yeah, and that's actually what excites me, because I would change that to we get to pick what we want. Oh my God, like it becomes an exclamation point, not like a have to do on my to-do list. Like, oh my God, I've got to go to the gym today. I've got to read. I've got to meditate. I've got to journal. I've got to get better. No, you're like, we get to do these things. It's one of the simplest things that I coach on is a to-do list versus a get-to-do list. All that is a framing of your life where you get to do everything versus, oh my God, my to-do list is so long. There's an energy and a weight to that. Nobody wants that.
You know, it's funny you're mentioning that, because this morning I got up and I went to the gym and I didn't think twice about it. I'm excited. I knew what I was doing when I got to the gym because it's Monday. And I already know what the routine is for Mondays. I don't have to think when I get there. It's it's bench day, and that's fine. I'm going to do my best, whatever I can, and follow the rest of my routine. And then I come back and I read and I do some my other things. And yeah, I don't think of any of those things as drudgery or things that I have to struggle with. They're just things that I enjoy doing. And so I get to do what I want.
It's amazing. And there's something that you said that I'm actually going to be creating about. And it is the difference between autopilot and default. And I've actually never shared this with anyone, and it's a perspective, but you're a great example of this. So you woke up and you went to the gym, and it wasn't challenging from a, oh my God, I have to go do this, or the reading. So for you, your routine was autopilot in the best way possible. You didn't think about it because you were taking action because you knew the results and it was good. Well, the majority of the world living by default has many of the same choices. It's just for them, their actions are not intentional and they are not creating the results that we want. But for you, you didn't think about it. You got great results. They don't think about it. They don't get the results. And it's a small, subtle distinction between creating your life on autopilot, because one of the things I hear often is like, Rob, I want what you have where this comes so easy. It's a lifestyle for you. It's like you're on autopilot, because you're right. When you're on this growth path, I'm not consciously thinking about it every single day. It's to the point now for me, having done this for more than a decade, where I show up every single day with this high performance mindset and personality, because that's my way of life. It's a lifestyle for me. So I've created the autopilot of my life. Whereas most people, you don't create your default, you fall into default, or you just become default.
And that's true. I think for many people, they fall into default. They fall into somebody else's default. They don't even always pick. They're told, oh, do X, Y, Z, and then you'll be successful and happy. And they go do X, Y, Z because someone said it, and they wonder why it didn't work for them. It's because it was someone else's plan. It wasn't yours. You didn't pick it. Speaking of which, one of the quotes that I've seen you talk about is, happiness is not a destination. It's a way of life. What do you mean by that?
So it's a picture that hangs on my wall in my studio, and I stare at it every single day. And so many people have a sentence like this: when I make this or do this, then I'll be happy, ... As if happiness is a future state that you need to create or validate for yourself, as if there's some sort of equation that says, ooh, now you've done enough or you've made enough to qualify as happy. Whereas most people fail to realize is that happiness is a choice, and it's a lifestyle and a way of being, that if your default becomes happy, that every single day is the opportunity for you to live and create the best day of your life. So for me, I learned this the hard way. Remember when you said, has your journey been easy or hard? So being an entrepreneur who's all in on my dreams, for the longest time, I saw entrepreneurship in my journey as almost like planting a flag at the top of the mountain, where I'm like, oh man, I dream of doing this one day. And once I do it, oh, then I'll have created my dream. But I learned that a dream is actually appreciating the journey on a day-to-day basis. And it is the working and creating towards the goal that you have that is actually the dream, not the planting the flag there. Because when you plant the flag at the top, you look up and you're like, well, I did that. But wait a second, there's another mountain over there. And then you change what your obstacle or what your goal or vision is for happiness or success. And people just constantly go chasing and chasing and chasing without ever having an appreciation for the day-to-day journey. And the same is true with happiness. And certainly for me, and one of the things that I do to actually create this in myself every single day is, as part of my self-cultivation morning routine, I have a series of statements that I declare and speak out loud every single day. And one of them is, I am the happiest person on earth, shining my light on everyone. And it's a beautiful thing, because we can all choose for the story that we tell ourselves to be that we are the happiest person on earth, if that's what you choose to want. And you're like, well, Rob, how is that true? How can you be the happiest person on earth? So I actually had to think about this because a lot of people say something but not believe it. So I'd been speaking this declaration out loud for a while. And I was walking my dog in Chicago and I thought to myself, and I was like, all right, who really is the happiest person on earth? And I was like, you know what? I don't know. I don't know anybody who is currently claiming that title. So I was like, all right, well, if no one's claiming that title, at least I'm up for consideration, right? So I was like, all right, well, what are some things the happiest person on earth would do? And I'm like, well, one thing I'm doing is speaking out loud every single day that I'm the happiest person on earth, shining my light on everyone. And I'm someone who believes in no negativity. And I'm the leader of Team Good Vibes. I'm like, that sounds pretty amazing. I was like, I could be the happiest person on earth. And then I thought about it and I was like, am I the happiest person on earth? Question mark. And I thought about it and I was like, I am the happiest person on earth. And boom, I claimed that for myself. But then Rocky, the key moment for when this sank in happened. So several weeks later, my wife was pregnant with our first child and we had the baby gender reveal. And we've got those 2 balloons that are sitting there and we popped the balloon. And for my entire life, my dream was to have a baby boy. And we popped that balloon and boom, blue confetti comes out. And I'm sitting there an hour or two afterwards and I'm thinking to myself, there is no way anybody on earth is happier than I am right now in this moment. And what it did is it anchored me and gave me the evidence. I already accepted that I was the happiest person on earth, but I truly felt into it. And I've lived that way every single day since.
Someone has to be the happiest person on earth. Why not me? Right?
Well, we can all be it. That's the thing. You can choose to take that on for yourself. You can be the best at or the happiest or the most powerful, anything. And once people realize we all have that choice to have that be the story that we tell ourselves in that narrative, that's the ultimate key to unlocking freedom in every area of your life.
You touched on the fact that you had a morning routine. Can we dig into that a little bit more? What does that look like?
Would love to. So this morning routine has been paramount to my success in creating happiness because for me, how you start the day is how the rest of it will go. So I wake up traditionally somewhere in the 5s. And the first thing that I do every single morning is read for 30 minutes because I audited the success habits of the most successful people. And you'd always hear the average CEO reads 60 books a year. I was like, crap, I'm reading 0. I think I want to learn a little bit. So boom, if something's important enough, when will you find time to make it happen? Well, for me, the answer is first thing in the morning because it is that important. So by design, by reading for 30 minutes, first thing in the morning, I guarantee that today is better than yesterday for a decade straight. So boom, I do that. It builds my growth mindset. After that, I do some journaling or morning pages for those people who have read Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. So just some free writing. All right, let's get what's in my head out of my head. There is no goal. There is no agenda. There is no judgment. I just want whatever's in here. Let's get it out of there. I meditate for 5 minutes, and then I've got my self-cultivation routine, which is a combination of gratitude, speaking declarative statements of I'm the happiest person on earth. I'm a force of attraction. I am infinite love. And I speak it and I feel into it and I visualize it. I collect the evidence in the world that says I am this. So the simplest example is I am abundantly generous. And I close my eyes and I think about the tip that I gave the person that I bought pizza from 2 days ago. I am generous. I gave him a good tip. Boom. It creates who I am. After that, I go to the gym for traditionally 30 to 40 minutes. I shower and then I start my day.
Today's episode is sponsored by Profit Answer Man Podcast. Did you know that most small business owners hate looking at their financials? It's one reason they may struggle with business success. The Profit Answer Man podcast helps them ensure they are profitable and can pay their employees and weather the storms we all have to face. It's built on the Profit First methodology of pay yourself first. The Profit Answer Man podcast is a must-listen to for every small business owner and anyone who wants to help them survive and thrive. Check it out on your favorite listening platform. You said I am a lot.
Yep.
Why?
It's the greatest powerful words you can have in the world because it creates who you are. Because a lot of people, there's a difference between affirmations and declarations. A lot of people hear, oh, affirmations. I say these things that are positive to myself. And for the longest time, I did this. And it's good, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Boom, you're creating positive energy for yourself. But the challenge is a lot of affirmations are future state. I want to be this. I want to be a millionaire. I want to do these things. But we all have the power to create the story that we tell ourselves and how we show up every single day. So, Rocky, think about this. For a computer to be a computer and boot up as the best version of a computer, when you push on, it runs a series of programs, right? Boom, it does this, it does this, it does this. Great. Now the computer is running as its best version. Well, we can create the same thing for ourselves. So why would we not want to create a boot sequence? Yeah, we've got our morning routine, but when we create who we are, so you may be somebody who is generous already and you know this, but guess what? Imagine how much more powerful you would be every single day if you spoke to yourself, I am abundantly generous every single day. Boom, you couldn't help but live the generosity because the way that you create yourself then creates your actions and your actions create your results. And similar to what we talked about in the beginning, where it's like, well, wait a second, you can design anything that you want in your life. The same is true with you self-creating yourself. So, Rocky, you also mentioned, hey, Rob, how do you overcome these challenges that happen in life? I know they're going to happen. So when I wake up and I speak out loud, I am infinite love. I am doing that because I'm so full of love, but I also know out there every single day are going to be some monsters. And I want to make sure that I am anchored in who I am and I'm in control of this. So I show up every single day as the best version of myself because I've created a system and a process mentally for telling myself the story every single day. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Absolute total sense. You deal with a lot of high income people who are successful, and they've got the money down, but yet they're still struggling. What have you found that they're struggling with?
They're struggling mainly with the narrative in their head. And what I mean by this is the story that they've told themselves is that money or business is not only number one in my life, oftentimes it is the only thing in my life. That they have not designed all areas of their life. So if you were to think about what are your non-negotiables, what does your perfect day look like? And one of the things that I love to help people do is to architect a life you love. And a lot of people make a crap ton of money and are unhappy. And you're like, how is that possible that you can be sitting there with cars everywhere and yachts and vacations and all of this? Because people can do things and make a lot of money and not enjoy doing it. And they put their happiness off for a future date. So for me, helping them understand, well, wait a second, let's start with this. What would you love to do or what would you love to create? And then let's design that in your life and in your day. And let's design that narrative of the story that you're telling yourself. So Rocky, you know what one of them is? I just don't have enough time, ... to read or to work out or to play with my kids because they've told themselves, oh, you know what? My business is more important. But imagine if you put prioritization of all the other things you want in your life. I believe in living a holistic life where I am happy in all areas of my life, my health, my wealth, my love, my happiness. And a lot of people who are successful just don't think or create that way.
Why is that? Why is it that they're so focused on money and they miss all these other parts of life?
Because you can be so all in and driven on something. It's almost like having blinders on. So I think about one of my clients who's like, who wants to work on creating a morning routine and doing more things that he loves. But sometimes he'll go and he's a founder and CEO of a digital marketing company, and he'll go on like a 72-hour coding binge. Boom, Rob, I did some amazing stuff with my business. I created a new product. We're bringing in more money with this. But he's like, yeah, Rob, over the last week, my fitness has fallen off. I'm eating like crap, and I haven't seen my wife much. So you sit there and you're like, well, you're doing some good things in your life. Like, clearly, I don't want you to not grow your business, but at the expense of all of the other things. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that you can create growth in your life by focusing on the micro. And here's what I mean by this. So my client who went on the 72-hour binger for coding, he very easily could have said, you know what? I'm just going to work out for 10 minutes. That's it. And I'm going to say hi to my wife for 10 minutes. And I'm going to do whatever, swing the golf club for 10 minutes. And instead, he got a 0 instead of a 1. And one of the things I often talk to my clients about is stack ones over zeros. You don't have to work out for an hour. Give me 11 push-ups and do that every single day. Because once you understand the power of consistency and doing more of what you love, you don't have to make things big and hard. Remember, why do people make things that are simple hard? These people who are high achievers do the exact same thing. All you have to do is say, fitness is a non-negotiable to me. Cool. Go ahead and do 11 push-ups a day. At least mentally you're doing something. You didn't get a 0. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense in that you've got to define it all, take the action, show up, do the work. And it comes back to the thing. And I can't, every time it's the same thing. Life is pretty simple, but people make it hard. And it's one of those things, if you could wave the magic wand and say, hey, life is simple. Just do these handful of things and everything will work out. And truly, that is what it is.
So, Rocky, let's actually be action-oriented and process-oriented on this. So, if we do just these things, life is not hard. It is actually simple. All right, here's the key to unlocking this. Take 30 minutes, put your phone on airplane mode, and do nothing except writing down the most important things in your life. So step number 1, write down your non-negotiables. So for me, having an active lifestyle and going to the gym is one. Another one for me is no negativity. So I have positivity in my life. And you go through these series of non-negotiables. You're like, this is happening no matter what. And then number 2, once again, in my perfect day, these are the things that I would love to do. Boom, you write these things down. And then, of course, you can add in work and money and success and all of those different things. But how many people who do not live this holistic life actually have written down what their perfect day would look like? If they could do whatever they want, all it is a lack of intention and awareness and physically writing it down. If you do this, you can't help but look at it every single day. Put that piece of paper next to you and be like, there's this, there's this, there's this. And if you're not doing that, then you're not committed to creating that. So now it's an opportunity for you to self-explore and say, all right, well, why am I not prioritizing this in my life? Why am I not doing this? Boom. I'm just not spending the time on this. All right, how do I create the time? Boom. And now you can diagnose it, because here's the thing. These people who make a lot of money and who are successful, they know how to do all of this stuff. They run their businesses on this stuff. The light bulb moment is when they realize how easy it is. It's so often easy for us to coach and teach and lead and manage others, but not for ourselves.
The hardest person to manage is the man in the mirror, right? The hardest one to control. And part of that, I think, and you talk about this as well, it's the story you tell yourself, the self-talk, the negativity. Are we just naturally wired for negative self-talk, or is that something that we've somehow been trained?
Yes, yes. So by design, I think if you're actually to go to the very beginning of like cavemen, their negative self-talk is, I hope there's not a lion behind this bush, because that lion might eat me. So by design, we're on lookout for fear and everything. And I also believe it's something like 70% of our thoughts are negative and 90+% of our thoughts are the same every single day. So by design, we're thinking about the same things. And by design, 70% of them are negative. Then on top of that, we live in a world that is designed to capture our attention. At no point in the history of the world has more information been thrown at us every single day. Think about how many people wake up in the morning. The first thing they do, they open up their phone, jump on social media, Slack or email, and then they turn on the news. Immediately, the second they wake up, the world is saying fear, self-limiting beliefs, judgments, comparisons, you're not enough, be on my agenda, get this to me, urgency. So automatically you're like, oh my God, everything's on fire. And the world is consistently doing that. And the biggest companies in the world are profiting off of that. All the social media companies, all the news and media companies, literally by design, they are built to capture your attention. So knowing all of this that is so-called stacked against us, this is why it is so important. And you need to be so vigilant about creating and designing your own story. That's why I don't touch my phone for the first hour or two that I'm up, because guess what? That stuff's always going to be there. But that's why I want to own the story that I tell myself. That's why I want to read. That's why I want to meditate. That's why I want to speak the I ams. So that way I'm already anchored in infinite love before the world tells me it's on fire.
That's it. Design it and do it. Pretty simple. And yet people don't. And that's okay. It's a choice, and we all get to make it. And, you know, I admire you for starting your day in a way that ensures success, and, you know, plan it out and keep tweaking it and improving it to the point that it's perfect for you. And I have a different but similar concept for my morning routine. Just I do my things, you do your things, and that's fine. Everyone's got to find the things that work for them and that start you off in the right path of the day. And as you're right, there are a lot of people who are vying for your attention. We live in the attention economy, and learning to turn that off is really, I think, freeing. It gives you the freedom.
It's the absolute freedom. I love it. It's why I love meditation, even just for 5 minutes, because it's the absence of thought in a world in which literally everyone's like thought nonstop, where you can create this freedom. You have freedom of choice, freedom of thought, freedom of time, freedom of you name it. And imagine if you could give yourself freedom. You're like, how in the world would you do that? And Rocky, I want to make sure that we hammer this home, because when you learn this, it's the game changer. It is all choice. We can all choose to create freedom every single day in our life just by saying, I'm choosing this story, not that. And I'll actually give you an example of something that just happened to me recently. I was on a coaching call where I was on the receiving end. And I said to my coach, for the last decade, nonstop, I've been thinking over and over and over in my head about my entrepreneurial journey every single day, every single moment. I was like, I don't want to always be thinking about it. And he's like, Rob, by design, you're always going to be thinking about it, because as you're growing, you're unlocking new potentials and doing things you've never done before. So therefore, you're always going to think about it. So you have the choice to either choose to be the victim or choose to be at peace with it. And he's like, well, which one do you want to choose? And I was like, I choose to be at peace with it. And I sat there for a second, and it was literally like an anvil lifted off my chest. I could feel the weight of the anxiety of like always thinking. He's like, Rob, be cool with it. It's always going to be there, but it's a good thing. And immediately I gave myself the freedom of thought to say, listen, it's okay that you're always thinking. Be at peace with this. But then I was like, wait a second. Can we talk about the word peace for a second? In all of the things I do with my morning routine and my self-creation, peace was never part of it, that single word. And I was like, so if you're telling me I can choose to be at peace with my thoughts, can't I then choose to be at peace with everything? He's like, yeah. And I was like, all right, I want to create a declaration for this. He's like, go ahead. And I said, and I thought about this, and it's on the spot, and I'm like, I am at peace with everything. And it took me 41 years and 4 minutes of this conversation to realize, holy crap, I can give myself peace. And in that moment, I gave myself peace of everything in my life. I chose peace. And since that moment, I've been floating on clouds, and that anvil is off my chest. And I'm somebody who's been about this growth journey for a long time. And only now did I create and choose peace. But now I was like, well, wait a second. I can choose the peace or insert whatever it is, happiness, love, gratitude, whenever I want. And so can you.
And it's a process. It takes time. This is not something that you do in a weekend, right? You're constantly improving, constantly sharpening, constantly making that little bit of step forward, constantly having the ahas, and then internalizing them and making them part of you and making those changes day by day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's fun. It's amazing. It's exciting. It's like building a house. It's like brick by brick by brick by brick that, sure, you can choose peace early on in your journey, but you'll discover some other things later on in your journey. So everyone's path is different. But once again, we're going to say it. We all get the opportunity to design and choose our path and how we want to go. So let's have fun and dance with it.
And dancing with fear is fun because eventually it gives up and lets go. It's when we fight fear that it becomes such a stronghold. But when you dance with it, it just kind of goes away. It's amazing how that happens.
Yeah, and I think about a quote that Jamie Foxx had on Tim Ferriss's podcast. And he said, you know what's on the other side of fear? Nothing. And I was like, ooh, that is so good because it's true. And another way to frame this is whenever you're afraid, when you take that first action, that first step, it all goes away. So I've got a background in improv, and it's a skill that I wanted to cultivate. And when you go on stage for the first time with a group of people and someone's like, give us a fruit, and they're like, watermelon, and boom, you've got to go. You're not sitting there being like, oh my God, I'm afraid. You just take that first step, or just like skydiving, you're sitting there, you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then you take the first step and you're like, oh, this is the best. The same is true for fear. And it doesn't mean that the fear goes away. You just get more accustomed to taking that first step.
And that's the biggest part, taking the first step. Once you take the first step, everything starts to come together and it works. I mean, if you just look at the universe, it's amazing how it all fits together. Whether you're here or not, or you do something or not, it works every day. And it all kind of fits together. And it's just amazing to watch that and to know that and to just observe that a lot of what we think matters doesn't really matter. And that expresses itself as fear.
So therefore, why would we not want to design the story that we're telling ourselves if by design the things that we're thinking about probably don't serve us? So once again, I love how circular this is because we're just sort of putting bows on this conversation over and over again. That, all right, if the things that don't matter, well, let's make sure we design the things that do matter, externally our actions, but also internally with our thoughts.
Very true. And you've used a system to design profit for your business, haven't you? You big fan of Profit First?
I'm a huge fan of Profit First, where I'm someone who is creative. I'm a creator and I'm a storyteller. And I wouldn't say that I woke up in the morning being like, ooh, let me go run my numbers. But I was acutely aware as a business owner that you want to be holistic once again in the business sense. And one area where I saw as a weakness for myself and or a big pitfall if I did not get it on point was the finance side of things. So like I do for anything, all right, let me go find the experts out there who can speak my language. And I came across the book Profit First. I read that and I was like, boom, I'm all in on this. And I implemented that as the financing for my business. And it has been a game changer.
So when you say it's a game changer, what was happening before and then what was it like after?
It's simple. Once again, the narratives that we're talking about here, structure and process. So when you go from someone who has finance or numbers as a weakness or a non-strength, well, what does that really mean? I have a lack of confidence in my system or process because I don't have a system or process for it. Hey, money comes in, I pay my bills. Hey, I'm all good there. I understand that. I'm financially literate, but I want to be better. And anything for success or growth is all around your system or process for creating what it is you want in your life. So if I want a better financially healthy business, all right, Rob, what is your system or process for it? So Profit First gave me that system or process that I could put into my business on the financial side of things that gave me the confidence that, crazy, I'm now saving first because I prioritized saving first. When everybody else says, but Rob, I can't do it because I'm not bringing enough money or I'm paying too much to other people. Not a problem with Profit First because we're putting it in there right out of the gates.
And that's true. You've got a systems and a process. And I love systems and processes. You know, that's how my whole life works. That's why I said when I went to the gym this morning, I didn't have to think because I have a system and process in place. It's Monday. This is the Monday system and process. Follow the order. Don't think. Do what you're supposed to. And it just gets done. And the whole day kind of flows like that. And Monday is also a day where there's generally nothing on my calendar Monday mornings because I want to ease into my week. It's the same way. Friday afternoons, I try to have nothing on my calendar so I can ease into my weekends. And I have those periods of transition back and forth. And it allows me that type of freedom. And so it works quite well. So we always like to get people to take an action step. What's something people can do this week to improve or change their lives?
Well, I got to go back to creating the story for yourself. So here's what I'm going to recommend. You sit there, give yourself, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And I want you to start with, I am ... And I want you to write down the best versions of yourself, the most powerful version of yourself, the things that you know to be absolute true in your life. And with this, what this does is you are starting to create the story of yourself. And then what I would say is you sit there and you say, all right, well, which one of these resonates the most with me or feels the best? And pull those out and then speak it out loud every single day for a week. Just try it on for size. And what you're going to do is you're going to live into and declare the powerful versions of yourself. So, Rocky, once again, let's just get this on paper. So we say, listen, I know the best versions of myself, but how about you just put it on paper so that you can give it to one of us, or you can speak it out loud? Because eventually what I'm going to want you to do is to create this as part of your morning routine where you understand that you've got a process and a system for designing the story in your head. And it all starts with just writing down the powerful versions of yourself that you know to be true.
There's science behind this. And when you write things down, it also helps just internal wiring and just making it part of who you are. I've heard of people and even businesses, they go through the process of creating a life plan or a business plan, and then they put it on a shelf. And they'd find it 10 years later, and they'd go back and read it, and they're like, wow, look at how much of that came true. And it was just the process of doing it. It's just magical, put it down. The more you look at it, the faster it happens. But even if you don't, more often than not, these things come to reality. And once you start programming your mind like that, your mind will start running those programs.
I love what you just said. It's magical. Imagine this. We just created an action item to create magic in your life. And you're like, well, what is that magic? I don't know, whatever you want. It can be happiness, success, fulfillment, gratitude, anything you want. And that is the magic of this. You get to design and architect this to create the results you want in your life. I love it.
I love it too. It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
My secret to living an abundant life is knowing that I am entirely in charge of creating the abundant life myself. It is already in me. I am abundance. And when you know that it is already in you, you live it at all times.
That you do. What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
The gift of peace and the ability to choose whatever the narrative is. That I always chose to do things that I loved, but choosing how to create freedom in your life. For me, I didn't put all of those dots together. And I think the word choice for me in the last few years, understanding that I can choose anything that I want, to be anything or to tell myself to create that freedom. To me, I wish I knew that a lot earlier.
There's so much that we wish we would have been taught in school that they never bothered to teach us, right? All of these things. Create your plan. Actually come up with your own. Don't listen to what everyone else tells you you're supposed to do, or society. Figure it out and start living it. Speaking of that, if you were to give an 18-year-old one specific piece of wisdom, what would it be?
Dream big and always believe in yourself.
If you dream small, you will have small.
Crazy how that works.
Yeah. And if you don't believe in yourself, who else will?
Once again, crazy how that works.
Hey, if people would like to learn more from you, find you on the internet, what's the best way for them to follow you and get to know more of your work?
Yeah, so I'm someone who loves engaging with other growth-minded people out there. You can go to robcressy.com. I've actually got a great resource. You can go to robcressy.com/morning. I've got a guide to creating a morning routine that serves you, very similar to this conversation. I just break down how you can design your best morning routine. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram at Rob Cressy. Or if you'd love to have a conversation, drop me an email, rob@robcressy.com.
And we will put all of that in the show notes to make it easy for everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rocky. I had a blast.
We are back where we started. Life is easy. Doing easy is hard. What parts of what Rob shared would you like to implement? Do you have your life plan written out? Do you start your day on your terms? We only get one life. Chasing money alone isn't going to make us happy. I know I did that for a long time. This week's action step was to take 15 minutes and answer the question, I am, and fill in the blanks. Write down the best version of yourself. Defining your I am is powerful. Who are you? And do you remind yourself on a daily basis of who that is? Is your self-talk serving you? These are the little things we rarely talk about, but we need to. Also, if you're a business owner, once again, you hear how profit first can ensure you are always profitable. It also works for your personal life. Pay yourself first. Live on less than you bring in and increase that gap. That's what it's all about with money. It's really that simple. Somehow doing that simple is hard. If you enjoyed today's episode and you know someone who would benefit from it, would you do me a favor and share it? I would appreciate that. Thank you. Next week, we're going to chat about escaping the matrix with Jerome Myers. I know you'll love it. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.